Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Talks. Today we have ESFP Stereotypes. And so Pete, could you tell us a bit about you?
Yeah, my name's Pete. I live in South Florida. ESFP, Enneagram 3 Wing 2. My occupation, I'm an economist by day, and I'm a musician by night. So I play the saxophone in an 8-piece band. So being on stage is really where my passion is.
Mm-hmm. And Pete does really good impressions.
More to come.
And Nari?
Hi, I'm Nari. I live in New York City and I work in HR. And my Enneagram type is 8 and perhaps 8 wing 7 is what I'm thinking, but that could change.
Excellent. And Shane?
Hi, my name is Shane, and I'm a leasing agent in Hollywood and Beverly Hills out in California. And I'm an Enneagram 3 Wing 2 as well as Pete. And I'm just happy to be here.
Happy to have you. And Marianne?
Hey y'all, Mariana. I am living in Mississippi. I am Enneagram 2 Wing 3. And my current occupation is not doing shit. 'Cause I'm still unemployed happily. But about to have to go back into the job market because you got to pay bills. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And Sally?
Hi, I'm Sally. I'm an ESFP. I'm obsessed with MBTI, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited for today's video.
Awesome. And my name is Joyce. I'm a certified MBTI practitioner, and I facilitate the instrument in organizations. The first stereotype we would maybe want to tackle is people seeing ESFPs as stupid. Thoughts?
Oh my god.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
You can go, Sally. Good, go.
Every time I join, like, I don't know, an MBTI chat, and I say, they're like, "Oh, what's your type?" I'm ESFP. I can just sort of tell that they now think of my intelligence as lower automatically. And it's kind of irritating because I don't really know my official IQ or anything. But even if I was stupid, I wouldn't want to be called stupid purely because of my type. You know, find something else to call me stupid on. Like, come on. Where did that come from? Where if people, like you said earlier, like, INTJs and INTPs are at the top of the intelligence list. I'm like, wait, where did that come from? Well, maybe because, like, I guess because stereotypical intelligence, like IQ tests. I guess they get put on intuition more. But hey, there's like multiple types of intelligence, and that doesn't mean just because you don't, like, I don't know, have a certain style of intelligence doesn't mean you're not intelligent. That's actually more stupid than what you're claiming us to be. What the heck? That's a more stupid claim than what you claim us to be. And so it's like you just gotta look into it more. Like, you gotta look into cognitive functions, different styles, everything, and how they process information. And that just because they process information differently doesn't make them stupid. And that's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's very dismissive.
Right.
It's frustrating.
Sure.
And it's funny, like on like any like dating apps like Bumble, I used to have ESFP on there, and then I took it off because I'm like, you like instantly get X'd out by like people. I guess I wouldn't want to be with somebody that would like swipe left because of that. But at the same time, you're like, I just like it doesn't mark it, which is so stupid. But
no, you shouldn't have to be hiding your type. What the hell?
ESFP does not stand for stupid. I did just tweet it stands for street smarts.
Well, aren't we known as like the sexiest? That's what I thought.
Oh, that could also be what the S stands for.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
That one is really interesting because I'm the opposite of sexy. Like, come on. And it's like people, and it's another stereotype that I've seen a lot of being described as ESFPs, like, oh, they really like to have sex and they're sexy and they'll go and flirt and stuff. Like, okay, I guess I can sort of see maybe like if you stretch SE, really, if you reach really far, you can go there. But like, it's not a typing requirement. I know it's a nice meme, but it's not a typing requirement. And so it'll be treated like one. Like, as soon as you get on the computer and act remotely, like not wearing like showing your cleavage on the street sort of vibe, then you're not an ESFP. It gets kind of old after a while.
Yeah, I would say it doesn't apply for all ESFPs, but for some it does apply. Like, some of them are really sexy. Like, my mom is like, she's 60, and my mom is a very foxy mama. Like, she looks pretty in old age. Like, she wears like these bold colors, and like she just looks very youthful, deceivingly youthful.
I admire that actually. I admire people who can really look like that.
Yeah, I'm 51, and most people think, I don't know, that they can't even believe I have a 25-year-old son. So maybe there's something to that. Which is
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it comes, the stereotype of us being sexy comes from the fact that we are confident. We have, and it's our FI, right? We have an internal confidence. We do like validation from other people, but we don't need it to define who we are, right?
Right.
So, and there's that old saying, that old adage that nothing is more sexy than confidence. And I think that that's what people really find appealing about us. It's not necessarily looks, but it's just like, and it kind of goes into our charisma as well. It's just this aura that we exude that just kind of draws people in, and that's what they find really attractive and sexy about us.
You know, I got to say something. I kid you not. Every time I go into a store, it could be a Walgreens, it could be a supermarket, anything. I could be dressed normal. Everybody comes up to me as if I work there. I don't know what that is. They'll say, "Oh, do you know where the deodorant is?" Yeah. It's like I'm not even wearing the colors of the store, and they think I work there.
Yeah.
You know?
It's pretty cool.
That actually makes me think, and I've shared this on like some of the other recordings, but after I got laid off, I started looking through all the evaluations I got from work, like upstream and downstream. And just different feedback I had gotten to figure out, like, what do people think I'm good at? Like, in the sense, like, not I mean their approval, but more like what really is valued that I have, like, in the outer world that I can, like, use for a job. Anyway, I saw multiple instances, and even on my LinkedIn recommendations, people wrote, it was like, she's so confident. And I'm like, no, I'm not. That's the vibe I'm giving off, I guess. But, like, whenever I'll, like, do national onboarding trainings, I'm in my element in the sense I'm having fun, and I felt, it's basic level accounting. So it's like, to me, I'm like, I know that well enough, like to come off as confident or to feel like I know what I'm talking about. But every time before I teach those trainings, I would always get like almost sick to my stomach. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. Imposter syndrome. Like, I don't, like, there's probably somebody way better like to teach this, like, or that would be more engaging. And it's just interesting. Like when you get that feedback, you're like, I'm glad that's the vibe I'm giving off. I don't necessarily feel that way. And I don't mean that like in like, oh, I'm just so great, but like just the fact, like what the vibe you give off, that sexy quote unquote confidence that people pick up on. Like if someone thinks you work at a Walgreens, I feel like that's people saying he looks like he knows what he's doing.
Yep.
So I feel like I'm confident.
That is so true. ESFPs being able to adapt in the moment really well. I used to work at a restaurant with an ESFP waiter, and he was just really good at like in the moment can tell like if someone needs something, because it's like his SE is picking up on a sensory cue quicker than anyone else. And so he seems immensely competent at his job. And he's also a 3, I'm pretty sure. So it's pretty cool. And so Shane, do you have anything you'd like to add to the chat?
I would like to, I'm trying to think what do I have most unique to bring to the table, and I think showing's rather better than just talking about. So here's my work clothes. I have all these colors, all my suits.
Nice.
Oh, I love it. Yellow.
Even pink,
Wow.
yellow,
Oh,
all
I
my
love that
Adidas,
right.
my shoes. And I don't know if you guys know any guys who have this many shoes, but check it out.
Love it.
Holy hell, that's a lot.
Yeah, he's definitely an
That's,
ESFP.
I feel like Joyce.
I'm like a little kid when I go before work in the morning. Like one of my favorite things is like organizing my outfit for the day, and I match everything down to the detail, the socks, the pocket square. It's one of my favorite parts of the day. It's like, what am I going to wear today? What color combo am I going to sport? And I don't know. I just really like it. And I always get compliments on my dress.
Shane, I was telling before you got on, my thing, yours is like shoes and clothes. And I have a decent amount, but nothing like yours. But I have a desk full of colognes. I love smelling good. I don't really meet too many guys. I almost feel like, man, am I a little too feminine for that? No, but I mean, I love smelling good. And I honestly love the attention that it gets. I love when a person compliments me on it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cool. That's so we're similar. Yeah. We just express it in a slightly different.
Yeah.
Shane, are your ears pierced by chance?
Yeah.
I was going to ask because I want to get more piercings, but I love like, it's just putting something onto yourself. Like, how can I make this look different? I guess I just got these like star studded earrings, kind of hard to see. I like it's always opposite on the camera, but I'm like, ooh, that'd be great for my second piercing. Like, and I want to get more piercings to decorate yourself.
Yeah, you know, I'll show you my drawer. I don't know if you can see those, but that's a lot of earrings.
What is that?
Rings, watches, and my Ray-Bans. So, yeah, fashion's like my unstated hobby, including the earrings. They have to match the watch and the bracelets and whatever else I'm wearing.
Yeah. And I think it's an Adidas jacket matches your ESFP shirt.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, my whole outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I got to match. I'm weird about that.
Shane, what you showed us definitely falls within like the ESF stereotype of like liking aesthetics and looking put together and like having like a good eye. How can you kind of show that you've got that as well as like the intelligence that people accuse us of not having?
Well, under my bed, I have this thing. Now, I don't know what it says, but I know it says something good.
It's a degree.
Universitatis Yale-ness.
Like freaking
That's my name.
Why is it under your bed?
Master's degree from Yale. But
he didn't want to look like a nerd. He's not going to hang it on his wall.
Yeah, it goes back under my yellow bed cover. And then all my
so the boogeyman can see it.
James Bond books too.
Ooh.
And then my other stuff. These are good Robert Greene strategy books, and then my philosophy stuff from school. I mean, I have a lot more than that, but books don't equal intelligence, but it's kind of a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, a common misconception is that ESFPs can't like philosophy, but like Shane has like a book, like just massive books of philosophy.
I do. Yeah, I mean, that was my major in school, and that was my grad degree also. So I think a lot of ESFPs are either into philosophy or at least they'll entertain it. There just has to be some link to real life, I think.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, very, similar yet distinct from an ENFP, say. I mean, I get along really well with ENFPs usually.
Me too.
The difference is I like to have more of a connection to something more tangible, like an ENFP and I will both read a philosophical work of literature, and we will both be interested in the theme, what's the message here. The thing for me is what does the message mean for me personally? How can I use the message in this story to make my personal life better? And I don't think an ENFP in general, I mean, they can do that also, but they don't link that to the value of the work itself. They're content to just let there be a myriad of possibilities out there. Like, well, it can mean a bunch of different things. It's just an entertaining story, whereas I have to like ground it in something purposeful and meaningful for me to be higher in value. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That's so true. That's so true. Like when people talk like about philosophy around me, like if they're not linking it to real life or giving examples, it's just a bunch of fluff to me. I can't get into it.
Right.
But as soon as I can, like, oh my god, I know what a time like when this happened to me, and then I can use it like actually in my real life. It's so much better. And and I have another thing to add about the aesthetic thing. It's so interesting because like I barely do it in real life. Like, okay, I'll wear like a bright shirt. I like wearing bright colors in real life, but I don't coordinate that at all. Like very little to not at all. But then in video games is when I start buying all the cosmetic items and spending hours upon hours trying to decide what to like. I put all my aesthetic attention into my video game character rather than my real life persona.
Yeah,
but you're still doing it. You're just doing it on a different stage.
Yeah.
I agree with Nari saying that. I actually went and took a picture of my closet because I haven't used my computer. But I have like the way I have it has to like be like that's all my jewelry like on like the cardboard things, but like I have boots up above and then like all these shoes down here. I got my hats on the top rack. But like everything has to like I'll show you a zoom in of my like jewelry. There's a lot of FI things in here. There's letters from my dad, pictures with my mom, and this side over. Let's see on this side. That's my dad's kind of family upbringing. The other side's my mom, and then at the top is like just different earrings and like just different jewelry that I wear. But to me, it's so aesthetically pleasing, and I can see it immediately. And I'm like, oh, it took me like forever to figure out how I want to do this closet, which I'm so stupid, but it's like I don't know, it's like an identity type thing in some ways. I also wanted kind of the FI, like I love like the reminders of my family or like my dog from when I was little. I have a Polaroid picture of him in there. It's almost like it's like my own like Pinterest board in some ways, just like things that like matter to me. I don't care if anybody else cares about it. And it's also
awesome.
as a certain way because it makes my morning easier.
That's amazing. And
That's
Sally,
beautiful.
very beautiful. And so Sally mentioned bright colors. I noticed there's a certain subsection of ESFPs who like bright colors. My mom is one of them, and Shane is also one of them. So that might be a theme. I think some ESFPs you can identify off of that.
Like I went to a huge shopping spree like a couple weeks, like not a couple, like maybe like a couple months ago. I'm not wearing particularly bright colors right now because I just came from like because I had to go because my mom wanted me to dress different for church the other day, and so I didn't get to wear what I actually like usually wear. But I went to a huge shopping spree. I just got all this tie dye and neon stuff. Like it was like heaven to me. I like have. Yeah. I don't know why. I just love them. I've always loved them.
I feel like to my funeral, I hope people would wear like bright colors. Like I'm like, come on, let's like at least like,
yeah,
have, you know. But then I would feel disrespectful wearing a bright color to someone's funeral.
Mhm.
But I would hope I'm like, let's, you know, I don't know, like I love bright colors.
I remember for my wedding, I remember you know, all guys wear the black tux, right? And I remember I was thumbing through a catalog, and at the time, my wife, I said, "Oh, I really like this one." She goes, "Let me see it." And it was like a teal colored jacket, right? And I said, that probably wouldn't fly, but I like it. She goes, "You wear it." And so I remember I wore it with the groomsmen and everything, and they thought we were waiters, but hey, it looked different.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
I want to return to what Shane did with his diploma, which was like just storing it under the bed. I think maybe this is where, and I'm circling back to the stereotype of intelligence. So sorry if I sound like a broken record, but this is something that really digs at me sometimes. So I wonder if like this stereotype also comes back because we don't feel like we need to brag about our intelligence, right?
Right.
For us, it's like something incidental. We'll put it to the side. Like we'll read the books, we'll explore the philosophies. I enjoy the talks, but I don't necessarily need to kind of pull out quotes to say, hey, like, here's proof that I read the books. Like, let me show you how this thinking has affected my life. It just kind of FI influences me in like decisions I make, what I want to talk about, who I want to be. But it's not something that I feel like I need to show around to everybody else in the world. It's sort of like I'll absorb a lot of information and I don't need to share like, hey, look at what I read, sort of thing.
Right.
I can relate to that, but I'd like to piggyback on that idea and add that for me, it's about what I'm accomplishing in the moment, here and now, in this year, for instance. Like I've done a lot of great things throughout my life. You know, I was a national high school surfing champion. I was a pro surfer. I went to, you know, different good schools. I have a teaching credential from Stanford. I've done a lot of cool things, but I care about what I'm doing right here and now. So like the Yale thing, I don't want to live on that and just always come back to that. I'd rather say, hey man, I leased 4 apartments today. That's what makes me cool, you know, not something I did 12 years ago or something, you know. I see a lot of people living off some one defining moment in their past, and I don't want to do that. You know, when I'm 70 or something, I want to say, hey, I'm doing flips off my diving board. What other 70-year-olds doing that right here, right now? You know, like I don't want to say, well, back when I was 36, I did this one thing, you know, how about that? Like,
And
no,
writing it out, yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
want to be
yeah.
that guy.
You know, Nari,
Yeah.
I wish I wanted to add something to that. That was a really cool like insight you had there. I never thought about. It made me think back. I was dating this guy recently. I think he might be an ISTJ, but anyway, like it's like he knows I'm a CPA. He's like an attorney or whatever. And I feel like like when we first met, we're talking, hanging out. Like I'm like, I don't want to talk about like being an accountant. That's not fun to me. That's not even who I am. It's just a credential, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And probably like after like maybe a month or two of hanging out, he like was sending me a text. He's like, yeah, I got to get up early tomorrow for my job. You probably don't remember what that's like. I was really not offended. I was really annoyed by that. Felt very dismissive. And I wrote him back. I was like, well, I really think maybe I've undersold myself to you. Like I was like that, like you've like picked up the wrong, like maybe what I'm putting down that you're picking up. Like, I can't remember exactly what I wrote back. It was like only 2 sentences, but I was like, wait a second. Just because I don't talk about my credentials and what I do with my career does like to be dismissed in that way. I was like, because I just don't want to talk about work. But that does not mean that like I haven't done things that I'm proud of. It's just not my identity. It made me mad. It's like, you don't remember. Like, I'm like, I worked in public accounting for 8 years. Like, I know that's why I'm still enjoying my time off. But so then I felt like I got defensive, even though I didn't show it to him. And I didn't like that about myself. I'm like, man, like you shouldn't have to prove yourself to somebody. You don't want to be with somebody like that. But I just like, it made me think when you said that, Nari, I was like, oh my God, wait, like because I don't want to like show off my credentials, because to me, and it's also going off what Shane said, because like I passed that exam 8 years ago. I'm not even using my CPA license right now for work. So it's kind of irrelevant for conversation topics. And also, if it was relevant, it's still not fun to talk about. And I think I'm so much more than that. Or I have to the table than that.
You know, to piggyback off what you said now, on the defensive part, I'd say that's probably one of my greatest character flaws, is that I get defensive really easy. Like when I feel offended or someone like puts me down or something, like I get pissed and I say something, I strike back. It's
like my TE wants to rise up, and I'm like, bitch, sit down. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to hang out with that person.
People say, oh, you're being defensive, as if it's like, hell yeah, I'm being defensive. You're absolutely right. Damn straight I'm being defensive, you know? They throw it at you as if they got you. You're being defensive. It's like, oh, okay, does that make me wrong to be pissed about that? Like, no, if you're going to insult me.
Exactly.
Of course I'm going to be defensive, but in this, it just seems like people think that if you're being defensive, it makes you guilty or something. And I don't understand that.
I want to add something about intelligence, because the way school prepares us, it's all book smarts. And I got to be honest, I struggled a lot with that in school. I was a B student. I was always a good student, but it came hard to me. I had to really work at it. I can't memorize stuff. I can't spout it out. That's not the kind. But if you put me in a room and, I don't know, you have a toothpick, a paper clip, and a tack, and you say, get out of this room, using these, I feel that my physical intelligence, I can do something on the fly and really quick. Whereas the intuitive is going to be thinking about it, writing a paper on it. I will get to something really
some
quick.
Dissertation,
Right. So it's a different kind of intelligence.
It's a tactical, probably intelligence.
Right. Like I play chess. That's one of my favorite games, and I actually have a decent rating. But I'm not the kind of player who can think 3 moves ahead at a time. I'm more I play with my heart, and I'm kind of like a kamikaze. I'll just go in for the kill, and I don't care. I'm doing this.
Yeah. No, there's so much to say about that. At least, I mean, I don't know. I know Joyce, and then, well, let's see, Ikram's not here, but I know that y'all grew up in Canada, but I don't know what it's like there with the American school system, at least, like growing up. It really does not cater itself very well. And I think we talked about this in past recordings, but to really like the probably perceiver types, like especially the EP types, regardless of what that, ESFPs would be in that. Not that like other people love school growing up, but like they probably have like, they can like, it's probably endure it for a little bit longer than like maybe I could. But I think aren't there 9 different types of intelligences? I think the American school system specifically tests for a certain one. And people don't talk about that. And I'm like, wait, I think that's where street smarts come in for me. I'm like, but wait a second. Like, I could survive on the streets. I'm like, you couldn't. Like, you can't memorize that. You know what I mean? It's in the moment. And it's just not. It's like, if you can't pass this ACT or SAT or whatever, like, test, like, you're not qualified to go here. And you're like, well, that, to me, I've just never, I'm like, I get you have to have some kind of like qualifier, and I totally understand that, because or else everybody could go. But I just don't, I don't know. I think they're missing out on like really smart people that maybe aren't like IQ as smart, but have so much to offer to the world.
Right.
I would also say that I don't necessarily think IQ aligns with, I mean, it tests for a certain type of intelligence, but it doesn't necessarily align with cognitive functions. Like, I was a National Merit Scholar, like in the top 5 of my class. I went to an international private school based on my SAT and SAT2 scores. So, like, I'm pretty confident in my intelligence, and I kind of get offended when people are like, "Are you sure you're an ESFP? Like, you seem like you're an ENFP." And I'm like, "No, SE first, completely." And I think that like pairing, like saying, "Oh, well, you've got a low IQ, so therefore you must be an S type, or you've got a high IQ, therefore you must be an N type," is kind of a false. It's a false pairing. I think that there's definitely a fallacy in that. So
yeah, that's ridiculous. Like, whenever you show the sign of intelligence, the people will go, "Oh, are you sure you're not an ENFP?" I'm sure. Holy crap.
Yeah, any sort of like interest into like psychology or philosophy, and they're like, "Huh, I didn't think S types cared about this." You know?
Yeah. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, that is so true. Type does not dictate intelligence. What differentiates sensors from intuitives is how you take in information. Yeah, so the perception function you use, basically. So, you know, sensors take in reality first. I find that SE is one of the highest forms of common sense. Like Marianne said, it's like street smarts. My ESTP brother and my ESFP mom, they kind of have like life smarts, in the sense that if you put them in any type of situation, they can make the most out of it. And that's a very rare skill for people to have. And they notice when other people don't have this. So it's almost like, okay, SE DOMs kind of notice when other people are slower than them in a certain way. Yeah. So I thought it was really smart of, you know, Shane and Mariana to talk about how ESFPs see the past as irrelevant. And I thought that was like a really, really interesting thing. And so, yeah. Thoughts?
Yeah, Shane, I'm glad you said that. I never thought about that. Sorry, go on, Sally. That was a thing. I'm like, well, that's so true. It's so in the here and now. Like, right here, right now is all that matters.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yourself, then what are you doing?
I had a period of time actually in my life where I didn't care about anything except the past, because I had this really nice 2-year like streak of like everything was happening in my life. It was so exciting. It was so amazing. It was like everything was going right. And all of a sudden, it just crashed all of a sudden, and then like there was nothing for me to look forward to. I didn't look forward to, so I had nothing to do except look back on what it used to be like, and I wanted that back. And that's when I cared about the past. Like, that's when I really just like I missed going and be able to go out and stay up until freaking 6 a.m. with my friends. Where happened to that, man?
Yeah,
I want that back. That's when I care about my past. Look at the pictures when that happened, and I just miss it so damn much. And that's when I start caring about my past, and I start getting nostalgic.
Like a nostalgia.
You know, I got to bring up a point. I don't know why. If I have to look at like old photo albums or old videos for some reason, I don't know why I can't do it. Not that it makes me sad.
Right there with you. Me too.
Yeah.
It gets me feeling weird, and I run
weird.
from it.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever, like, this is going to sound so crazy, like I'm high on something right now, and I'm not, but have you ever, like, and I think I've tweeted about this before, maybe in the past, like, year or so, looked at a picture so hard from the past, and like, if I could just think about it and look at it hard enough, I could put myself back in that moment. Which, and I know, like, that's so stupid.
No, I've done that.
It's like, oh, I want to go back to that one moment, like from 15 years ago. If I think about it and look at it hard enough, could I be back there?
Or you feel like you could escape into a moment in your past when you die or something.
That I want to escape. It's not like because like the current like situation or my reality like right now, modern day, is bad. It's more like just this nostalgic thing Sally was saying. where like I look at these old albums even from high school, and I'm like, you know, like you lose, you know, touch with friends, like, you know, over the years, like out of sight, out of mind. That's just how life works. Like nothing bad happens between you, but you just, you know, but you look at these old pictures, and since I've moved home, I've been doing a lot of that. And it's like, oh man, like those were really fun times. Like now are also fun times, but like, I don't know. Like, it's just, to me, it's very strange. It's like almost like it makes me scared to even like really think about SI in some ways, which maybe sounds stupid.
So this what I'm going to say right now is probably going to sound super SI. What I like to do sometimes, I don't do this a lot, but I do it sometimes. I like to take the old perfumes I had back in times, and I like to take the music that I had. We combine those and look at the photos. You're there. Like it takes me back.
Yeah, you're there. It does take you back.
There.
Yeah.
Especially with the perfume. Oh my God.
Yeah. I love the perfume. Like I literally went out of my way. I was hellbent to go find the perfume my friend was wearing back in 2016. I just freaking smell it and go right back, and it's like, wow, I'm right there. Like, I don't know. I think that's just how the human brain works, or is that SI? I don't know, but I love doing that. I mean, it's something I've always loved doing.
It's kind of overwhelming nostalgia.
Yes, and it's like, wow, I've really been through a lot. Because sometimes I feel like I'm not doing a lot in my life. They're like stagnant, but when I look back, I'm like, I did do something. I have something to show for my existence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it as feeler attachment. So feelers tend to have an emotional attachment to things. And because they're emotional, like feelers tend to be on a whole a little more emotional. So I see it as an FI thing and a feeler thing.
That's something that got me typed as an SI user a lot. But it turns out, like, I don't know a function, but it's like an FI thing. I mean, it's something I do no matter what type I am, but it's just something that people sort of put into certain things, you know?
Maybe it's possible also that I'm just kind of thinking about my closet, having like things from like one board with my mom's family on it, one with my dad on it. SE, especially when you're in a loop with TE, it's so in the moment. And it's like just, to me, like, it can feel like the only past you're looking at to maybe sometimes make decisions when you're like in that SET loop is maybe from the past 2 or 3 weeks. And so to me, kind of having this like reminder, like when I'm in my closet, and it's like a sweet letter from my dad, or like just the old things. It's like, I don't know, like I hadn't really thought about that. I'm like, is that more like to remember where you came from, or like what does it help ground you? I don't know, like, because, and maybe that is maybe why it feels so nostalgic or feeler type when I do look at an old picture, if I haven't been kind of staying grounded, like in maybe my roots. I don't know. I don't really know. Probably not wording that well, but I just like.
I get it. Yeah, it's like your backstory.
Yeah.
I wonder as well, Mariana, is it's also because we're so in the moment and so present that we just say, okay, this is what life is, and we just kind of take it as it is. I think something that I struggle with is having gratitude for every single day and everything that's happened. And it's like going back and looking at those letters, you can feel like that grateful in that connection and be like, oh yeah, you know, this I don't know. That's something that I struggle with, and something that I'm trying to work on is just being grateful for each day and each moment, like things that have happened, because it's so easy to just take it as like, yeah, it's part of the day. It's like what happens. Like those small kindnesses, sometimes I forget. And if I don't record them deliberately, they're gone. They're in the past, because that's who we are as ESFPs. Yeah.
Moving to the next thing. Yeah.
That's why I take pictures of everything. People are like, oh, you have 100,000 photos in your camera. Well, you're going to put it on a story. Why the hell do you do that? Well, I'm like, well, guess what? This certain thing on my screen, just the fact that, oh my God, my battery indicator is yellow right now. I'm gonna miss that. One day I'm gonna miss that. It's just the tiniest little thing that I want to record and remember. And it's like, and I want it to be gone forever. It's only gone when we forget about it.
We notice, or we tend to notice so much more in the moment that we just have less like RAM space in our brains for the future or the past. You know, like I'm the first one to notice if someone's been in the room or something's not in its normal place, or the first one to react to the phone ringing or any of that kind of stuff. But the price I pay for it is I don't remember where I put my wallet, right? I don't remember, you know.
My keys are always missing.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Or, you know, hey, remember this when it happened 5 years ago? Some stuff I remember really clearly, and a lot of stuff I don't.
Yeah, it has to be important, like, or else you won't remember it, you know.
Well, it's just like different people's brains are wired different, you know, like an INTJ will, or an ISTJ, they'll have all the details of something that happened, or, you know, they're in memory, it's all categorized and they can say, well, I remember this and that, but then they'll miss something right in front of them, you know.
I will argue I've got a lot of INTJs in my life, and my best friend is an INTJ, and she's just as bad as the past as I am. Maybe even sometimes worse. Like as bad as my past memory is, hers is worse. So it's sort of like, hey, remember when we did that thing? And she's like, no. I was like, oh, okay.
As relates to the past, I don't really dwell there much, but I heard a great saying. It's actually become probably my motto. It said something like this. It said, the best time to do something was yesterday. The second best time is now. And that's like a motto for me. It's like, you know, you can think all you want about the past. You can't do anything about it. But I can do something now. I might have forgotten it yesterday, but I can do it now. I can make a difference.
You know what's really interesting about the past memory thing? It's like I actually sometimes there's certain things, there's certain dates and times that I'll just dedicate myself to remember. Like I'll literally like if it's like the first time I took an MBTI test, like I remember that one day, and I'll wake up on that day, I'll be like, this is the time I took my MBTI test. I'll remember the little timestamp of it because I have it saved on my phone. And I'll just be like, I'll sit there on that minute. I'll be like, 2 years ago, I've taken this MBTI testing. But it's like a very small number of dates that are like emotionally connect with. But I don't do that for everything. It's like this really weird sort of selective thing.
So what you were talking about, Pete, like kind of not because you can't do anything about the past. It makes me think. And when Joyce and I recorded the ESFP video a month or two ago, and we were talking about how like I've been going back to therapy, kind of like unpacking suppressed memories or whatever, you know, like just, you know. Anyway, I'm on therapy journey right now. And we did this EMDR session, which is like eye movement, reprocessing, desensitization. I can't remember exactly what it stands for. Anyway, but you're kind of going back and you're looking at how like events, like I'm sure you can Google it, but like basically there's a way the therapist asks questions that draws things out. And it kind of, you're distracted in a way where your brain like it's not like so like overthinking. It's like, anyway, but the amount of things from my past that we were able to quote unquote like reprocess, like from when I was like 14 through 16. Not like it was super traumatic, but I never really had processed it. I don't think my brain was developed, or I didn't have the resources or tools anyway. And it blew my mind, like where I'm like, holy shit, so much makes sense why I am being the way I am in the moment. Like in that SE way where I'm like, I'm not even taking the time. Not like I feel like that sounds like mean self-talk, but I'm like, I've never even considered how the past is affecting how my SC quote unquote is playing out today. And maybe why I've picked up like certain like behaviors. And so I do think there is a lot of value. And I don't know if I don't think you were implying there's not value in looking back, but just what you said about like, you can't change the past, I think is what you're trying to say. But for me, I think by looking back at the past, by doing those sessions, it was like, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I should pay this guy $1,000 every session because this groundbreaking information and what I'm learning. And it's actually kind of maybe corrected-ish some of my current behaviors. And kind of separating an anxious kind of attachment style from things from my past and, you know, versus current day, where I'm like, wait, there's a clear line now between these for me where I can kind of like detach the two, and there really isn't as much of a threat in current day. But there's a lot
of talk. I think when I watched the interview that you had with Joyce, a few months ago, you had mentioned
I think
that.
we talked about it there.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. But you know, and I also think you said, or somebody else said something about this what is it, SETE loop that you get in. I honestly feel like I skip a lot over the FI. I don't know why. I just don't like going there. It just makes me feel depressed, and I'd rather just keep busy and just do things. And I know my wife says I'm sick in that regard because I'm always have to be doing things, you know, but that's like my way of coping. I don't know.
Oh, I relate to that so much. I think that's why the EMDR provided a lot of value, like from like, wait, fuck, this is how I've ended up here. You know, like kind of to look back and give it some like, kind of finally give it, for me, just that's my own personal experience. But I wanted to like say that I, even though I can't change it, I guess I can quote unquote reprocess it maybe in some ways, but I don't know if I relate to that at all. Just being so in the moment, especially in a SET loop, as you said, is so intoxicating. Whew.
I don't feel like I do. I think like this might just be because I'm young, but I don't think I have. You said common sense and stuff. I think that it's just not there for me because I end up because like I don't know, like I don't care what I'm doing. If I'm playing Fortnite, if I'm playing Minecraft, or if I'm in a situation like a really serious situation, like in real life or a confrontation, you name it, any scenario, I somehow do the stupidest shit. Like that's not because I'm very young, but I think I'm trying to be helpful. I'm trying to be fine. I'm trying to be okay with this. I'm trying to add something. I'm trying to just contribute to helping the situation, but I somehow fuck it up even more. I just need to back off. I don't know what that's all about. Somehow it doesn't matter what I say; it would make it worse. So I think I just need more like information, like experience with.
I think everybody thinks that ESFPs are like just in the present moment, and that it's isolated like that. But like our present is built off of our past, and that kind of goes into developing us to who we are. So we always do kind of reference back, but just maybe not consciously. Like we don't necessarily link it back to, hey, I know I got this because I've done it like before. I've seen it before. We just kind of intuitively know that, hey, I've been in this situation before. Maybe not the exact same people, but enough that I can kind of adapt and play off of it.
So you mean like in like non-emotional type situations, like kind of like in the moment, okay. Yeah, because I'll be honest, I don't relate to that because I just don't fucking plan for anything. But I feel like that's the one thing that I feel like it's like my strength/weakness. My Achilles heel is I don't do background research on things when it's like, I'll just figure it out when I get there. It's worked so far, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah. I would say I focus more on the future than the past, if anything. I mean, the present most of all, but if I had to choose between the past and the future, I'd be more likely to be thinking about potential possibilities or options than I would, well, what have I learned in the past that contributes to this situation now?
Is the past interesting to you in that way, Shane? Like where you're like, oh, well, let me look in the past. I'm just trying to understand like the time.
To me, the past is
differently. Like
the past is like dead to me. I have a hard time. I don't know if this is even personality related, but say past jobs or past relationships, it's hard for me to make a distinction between something that happened 3 years ago and 7 years ago. It just seems the same to me. Like in other people, there's a definite difference. Like, well, this was a far long time ago, and this was just a little bit time ago. For me, once it's in my rear view mirror, like
it's done. Yeah.
The difference between high school and college, it's like all a blur. Like it's all the same to me.
Maybe it's just like relative with age, though. You think in some ways, like plays that.
I don't think so. I've always been like that.
Yeah.
I'm like that too, Shane, where like if it's recent past, maybe I'll remember it, but if the further back it gets, it becomes a lot more hazy unless I choose to kind of focus on it. But that's not what I'm saying when like the past experience kind of influences our SE. It's what I'm saying is and we don't necessarily access them like intentionally. It's just sort of having those past experiences and then learning from them has given me the confidence of like, okay, I've been in a similar situation. I can handle this. I don't necessarily know the details and can't like, I would have to like really kind of focus and think back, okay, when did I see this situation? Like I can't pinpoint it like that, but I just have the confidence and the lesson that I've learned from that past experience telling me, okay, I know what to do.
Now see, maybe this is maybe weak NI or something, but I've had to relearn the same lessons in different circumstances that was really basically the same issue over and over and over again. Like I still have a problem with oversharing and gossip and stuff like at work. Again and again, the same issues come up that came up when I was a teenager. It's like, oh, you talk too much. You should have kept this to yourself. This is no one's business. Why did you tell person B about person A's problem? And I say so many times, oh, I'll never do that again. And then I do it again in a slightly different context, and it's just like, damn.
That hits so close to home. Oh my God.
Because you're so in the moment, you think that's why?
I just think it's weak, you know, maybe, I mean, that's a...
I relate to what you just said. For me, I get wrapped up in the moment. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel better, like, you know, and maybe this goes back to that stereotype about intelligence and there being different intelligences. If there's one way I'm really stupid, it's like, you know, when I've learned things the hard way, you know, I shouldn't have had to relive the same mistakes I've made again and again, you know. I'm finally putting to rest a few of them, but some of them, it's just like I keep screwing up the same way with just different people, and it's frustrating.
Oh my God. That's just, I'm with you. I'm right with you right there, because I've always been doing that my whole life. Like, it's just, oh, I know I won't do that again, but then whenever something happens, like I'm in another group of people, oh my God, I can say this right now. It's such an exciting thing right in the moment. But then you go say it, hits the fan the exact same way it did earlier, and it's like, dang it. And then repeat. It happens to me
like
so much.
a simple example would be gossip at work. You know, I need to just pretend that there's a camera and a microphone on me all the time, and then I'll do a better job, because I can't help myself talking shit on one person to the other person, and then I talk shit on that person to the other person. It's like immature, not good, not professional, and so why do I do it? It's like, I like stirring up shit. I don't like it if it's about me, but I need to settle down on the gossip.
I think that you kind of got to the heart of the issue, is that you like doing it, and that's why it always happens. It's not like you regret the consequences, but you don't necessarily regret the action.
But the reason I brought it up was just, I think we were talking about SI, and I was relating that to NI. And I think people with good NI don't make those kind of mistakes. Like they screw up once, and it's just like, ooh, we'll never do that again. And they just think things out. Hey, should I tell someone that I think that other guy got COVID? No, that's not professional. I better keep that to myself. Whereas I'm like, hey, guess what? That fool, he's gone because he got COVID. You know what I like, that kind of stuff.
For me, it's over drinking at a social event. But I'm being serious. You're like, damn, I drank too much last night. Like, I bet I made an ass of myself. I'm like, I've done this. I'm 33, but it's 100 times. Like, when do you learn your lesson?
Right. And see that, you know, I haven't drank for 2 years, and so I haven't made the mistakes as bad as I did before that. However, I still make the same kind of mistakes, just not quite as bad.
But I relate to that way. I recently did that, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, how many times are we going to go through this, Mariana? Like, how many times does it have to happen for you, like, just to have that NI or something, just where you're like,
right. And see, I think that is an ESFP thing. And, honestly, and maybe there's a couple other types too. It's like having to learn things, same lesson more than once. Some types don't have to go through that. They learn a lesson hard once or twice, and they're done with it.
Like an ISTJ, for example. I think
yeah. I mean,
for me, it's always been cringe jokes. Like, I'm always like, I don't know, I can't tell you how long it took for me to stop blasting Despacito in a voice chat where people would mute me over and over and over again. Like, I just think that maybe this time will be different. It's not. It's never different.
Yep. I'm glad you guys can relate.
It's an interesting insight. Thanks for bringing that up, Shane.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, stereotypes. What other stereotypes really bug you, ESFPs?
Oh, the popular stereotype for me, that really bugged me. Like every time you read a thread about MBTI types in high school, you see ESFPs like, as a cheerleader, as a popular chick. And it's like, for me, it feels so flipped. Because I was the most hated person in my school back in elementary school. I was an outcast, if there was ever an outcast in my school. And it's just so freaking weird to see my MBTI type be portrayed as the people who used to bring me down. It's sort of I don't know. It bothered me.
You know, One stereotype about us is that we're shallow and vain, and I can't really argue with it. It's probably true in my case. And I'm like, well, there's worse things to be, you know? I mean,
how does your FI come on board though, Shane? Like, to me, like, where does your FI come into play with that?
Yeah.
It's, you know, when people think I'm shallow and vain, it's like, well, matching and colors and stuff like that. It's real important to me.
Oh, that's different. I'm like, that ain't shallow. Like,
I mean, to other people, it's shallow. You know,
okay,
why do you care so much about what you're wearing? It's more important to make sure you're treating people right and stuff. It's like, I value, like, I need my environment, my clothing to match. And if it's going to make us late because I have to go back upstairs and change, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be comfortable unless I'm wearing what I want to wear and I'm matching the clothes I want to match with. And so it's shallow, but it is my FI, I think. And that is it. Certain things are valuable to me and they're shallow to other people. And I don't care. I like, for me, like that whole color thing, it's weird. I'm really visual. Like, if I don't like what I'm wearing, I just, like, I don't care if I just got up and I go to the store, I'll make sure I match and look my best. I just have to. That's just me.
I want to add something. I forgot your name. MBTI Fanatic. What's your name again?
Sally.
Sally. Okay. You mentioned about how you were just not necessarily the cheerleader. I definitely relate to that, and I don't know if this is FI. This is and it's a pet peeve of mine. I hate groupthink. I hate when groups do things and have a common way of doing. I feel like I need to rebel. And I feel like I'm not that stereotype that you read about in all these definitions there. You know, because I like to be authentic. If I'm with people who I authentically, you know, believe in and I like, then I can be that. But when I'm around like phony people or whatever, I can't be a cheerleader. I feel so alienated. Yeah.
That's FI versus FI for mine.
I actually considered joining a sorority. Like, I was thinking, oh my God, I can make some cool friends in here, but I did more research into it. It's just a massive social norm game. You get ostracized for having the wrong makeup. You get ostracized if you don't have a carbon copy of the girl next to you. And it made me sick to my stomach. I'm like, I don't want no part of this.
When I went to college, it was all the sororities and fraternities, and that was that part of me. I'm not putting letters on a shirt. I'll make my own friends. I don't need to have it artificial. Yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't want to do that.
Oh my God. Exactly. I'm glad you understand. Like, I'm glad we connect on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was an odd duck too in college, or in high school and in college, Sally. But for me, it never really bothered me. Like, I was really kind of content with the people that I had chosen to be around. And I found my niche. Definitely in high school less, but definitely in college more. I found my niche. So
it's cool. You get higher quality experiences because when you have friends that actually like you for you, then it's just all around a better experience, a more genuine experience.
Yeah. I do think I agree with the whole sorority thing as well. I hated that shit in college, but I will say this might be an FI versus FE thing. I don't know, but I don't want to totally discount it or dismiss it, because there are like good things that can come from those situations, like where you're kind of forced to be around people, meet people, make friends, where you're like, oh, well, this was ish worth it, 10% benefit here, maybe a 90% loss. But it's kind of those like social things that set themselves up for you, where you're like, you know, I don't want to totally like negate the positives from that, but overall, I do relate that group think, like you said, Pete, can really grind me and like rub me the wrong way. Like, I don't.
It takes it's just like I don't know how to describe it. It's like you get like the cookie cutter thing, but you don't get the actual cookie, you know?
I think at any point in life, you can always kind of find your people. There are still good people in those situations, but overall, kind of that group think, it does probably not appeal very well to like FI user or high FI users at least.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
you know what? I agree with all of your guys' statements. I didn't join a frat in college either. And in my desk at work, I have a phrase groupthink, and it's crossed out with a circle in it.
I love it.
Great.
I think we're all on the same page there.
Yeah.
And I think there's another stereotype, is that we're the most gregarious, outgoing, most extroverted out of all the types. And I don't think we are. None of the ESFPs, including myself. I mean, we're not introverts, but we're, you know, and I don't like using that word ambivert, but I think a lot of us would fall in that middle category, you know, because of that FI. Along with ENFPs. I think that's where we're similar to them, because we both have FI second in our stack, and that's, you know, introverted feeling different.
Yeah, that function makes a lot of difference. And that's why I don't agree with the shallow stereotype. Because, you know, I remember what you said about the color thing. That isn't really shallow when it connects to your FI. I don't think anything is shallow, because that FI is, it's not, I don't think, no, and it's impossible for a type to be shallow, because they do have an introverted function somewhere. So it's going to be either way. It's going to be deep in a different way.
I wanted to comment on that as well, Shane, but I didn't want to change the subject. But I find it very hard to believe that anybody who's got a grad degree in philosophy is shallow.
Oh my God, like that's the opposite of shallow. If anything,
Not the way I
right?
Yeah.
Back to the thing about being gregarious and all that. And I don't know if you guys find this. I love having great conversation, but if I usually don't find I'm the most talkative in a group. I find that these annoying like INFJs talk forever, usually about conspiracy theories, and I'm nodding and I'm almost crying in tears. I can't get out of this. They don't.
I can't help but look at Joyce right now.
I know.
Oh, I'm sorry. She's.
No, that's
she's
so
not.
funny. No, you're like, she doesn't care.
My brother's an INFJ, and he won't shut up about his conspiracy theory. He will keep me on the phone, and I could put the phone down. He won't even know I'm not there. But I know, like you said, Shane, I there's times when I don't feel like I'm the most talkative. I don't know where we get this. I don't know if it's a true stereotype, but I don't really talk as much as.
Maybe that's an introvert getting very comfortable at the same time. When they get comfortable, you're like, oh shit, I ain't never gonna shut up. Like, and I'm okay with that, but you're like, oh God, like.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear all your input, because a lot of the time, like for years, all I've been seeing are these very surface level descriptions of, yeah, they're going to be dancing on the table and they're going to be loud and extroverted and stuff. But it's so much better to actually get in depth like input from real.
After
people
3 beers, I am like that. It takes a few.
I was going to say I have danced on the table before. That I have had that in my past.
I'm not that much fun when I'm sober, but you know, like But no, it's true. It's like that stereotype. Joyce, I would love to have your input on that. Where do you think that stereotype of like dancing on tables? Like, I mean, I do have some on the table, let's be fair, but like that's not my everyday.
Exactly. It's fun to do like once in a while, but it's not the entirety. It's not our literal being. It's not why we exist. It's just a cycle.
Yeah, because I'll be hungover the next day, and that's why I can't. You know what I mean? If I'm dancing on a table, I'm wasted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sober. Like, oh, I'm an ESFP. Let me find a table. Like, Joyce, where does this come from?
I think it's because like a small percentage of you guys do it. Like I had an ESTP teacher in high school, and when we graduated, or it was like a momentous day, like he went on the table and he danced, and everyone started dancing. But it's like these small momentous moments that people characterize you guys.
I think where it comes from as well is the combination of intuitive bias and what you said, Joyce, about the momentous moments. Because people will be like, oh, like people tend to say, I don't like ESFPs, whatever, and they'll take all the worst characteristics of ESFPs and then paste it onto the internet where other people read it, and then they go have this confirmation bias loop, and it keeps on going and going until it becomes the entire type, and it just doesn't stop until we do something like this type talk and correct it.
But at the same time, the F in ESFP stands for fucking fun. And I will say, I mean, like, I'm just saying, it's like one of those things. I'm like, yeah, we do bring a lot of life and energy to a situation. It can be totally sober. But you're like, okay, well, like, you think I dance on tables all the time. You're just saying, deep down, I'm a fun person. I amp up in energy. maybe it's going to be on the table. Likely it's not. I have ruined a pair of jeans from dancing on the table when I fell off. But like, it's just one of those where you're like, okay, like what else do you got? Throw it at me. Like, it's an annoying stereotype, but I also feel like it's like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, I definitely get like that sometimes, but I don't do it like the entire time. Like I love being able to like lose myself and get like that. Like that's where I'm really alive, but it's like it still bothers me when it's like the only thing that.
Oh, I agree with you for sure. Like you didn't go out that night thinking you were going to dance on a table. It just happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I just found myself on a table. But 90% of the time, you're not doing that. Like if the moment leads to it, you're like, it's fine. But like, I don't know. I do feel like it's a backhanded compliment that like, that is the type. You're like, okay, sorry, I'm the funnest type. Like,
have any of you seen that show on, I think it's Amazon Prime, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? Anyone?
Mm-hmm.
No?
Okay. My friends watched that. I haven't watched it.
Oh, okay. Well, the lady, she's a comedian. She just, falls into the field. But anyway, she's the type of person that if she's at a gathering and all, she gathers people around her, and all of a sudden she starts being funny. And I have to say, I may not be jumping on tables and all that, but if all of a sudden there's a crowd around me and all, I will ham it up and be funny. That's something that comes very naturally to me. Yeah.
I feel like that's a good, like, it's like dancing on tables, kind of like the equivalent of that, like in a crowd, like,
right.
Like what are you doing to draw attention, not in a bad way, but entertain people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I enjoy that. People say they're afraid of public speaking. I'm saying, really? I enjoy that. Love that. But back to the stereotype, and I want to say, Mariana, you said this because I watched the several of those past videos. While we may not be or stereotyped as not being smart, I will admit I am lacking in preparation. I'm also, in my job, I have to do a lot of presentations and things like that, and I find that I can over prepare and then I freeze. It's almost like it's better if I don't prepare. I'd rather just go into it and be spontaneous. Yeah. And I might pass off, it might be just more, there's not much substance, but I can present it well. So it kind of passes off as like, oh, he's really knowledgeable, so yeah, I don't know.
Being prepared can mess us up.
Like when you prepare like the speeches, like or speech or anything, it takes your mind off of. For me, it takes my mind off of the what the content is, and then it puts my mind on to how am I presenting it. But whereas if I don't prepare, I'm more focused on the information, and the rest just takes care of itself.
Exactly.
And it just turns out to be a better thing.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, hey, you guys, it's 9 and I have to go. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's been great talking to you. I hope you're almost done anyway, so I don't miss and get left out of too much more.
That's an ESFP thing there, right there.
Yes.
Love for all you guys.
So good to see you.
Have a good one.
Love for you, Shane, as well. And
we'll be in touch.
And by the way,
thank you for coming out.
Personal, like me calling you out about the
not
hating the
at all.
consequences, but not necessarily hating the action. All right.
We're all good. Thanks, you guys. We'll talk again soon.
It was so fun to have you on.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So this actually makes me think of something like because I've been reading all this, like I was saying earlier, all this feedback like that I got while I was working in my old company. And it was for an onboarding training that I taught. Usually like 100 people in the room. And I kind of learned to prepare. Where you're like, okay, let me remember these boring ass slides on like the accounting assertions. I'm like, how can I give a good example and not trip over my words for something that I personally think is boring? But I never try to prepare too much. And it's funny, I was reading through feedback recently. It was like, love that skit she created, came up with that skit in the moment. And it was like one of the things that even I was laughing so hard, I had to walk out of the room because I was laughing so hard. It was such a stupid skit, but it was like trying to give a relevant, like what it's like to go talk to a client when you need something and not be a total dick, and like how you approach them. And like it's all common sense stuff. But the feedback, the way they wrote it, I feel like that person thought I actually prepared that stupid skit. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like had I prepared too much with those slides, I probably never would have even thought about the opportunity to do a dumb skit, or like quote unquote role play, I guess.
A stereotype that I've read that's actually true is that we can make a dull situation actually lively. And that is true. I found that. I can take boring material and make it interesting.
And applicable and relevant, I feel
Right.
like also, to relate it to something that the audience might, like, for example, I don't think I've ever said this on a recording, but there's like something in like accounting, generally accepted accounting principles, I don't know what it stands for, a GAAP, but it's like the revenue recognition. And like, when do you like record revenue? I'm still like the INTJs, I don't know, ISTJs probably loving this. I'm like, it's not going to be a fun topic for them. I used freaking Venmo as my example. I was like, okay, guys, think about this. You are like, to understand when you recognize revenue. Let's say you went to a bachelorette party or a bachelor party for the guys out there, and you hadn't gone to Las Vegas yet for the bachelor or bachelorette party, but one of your friends had already paid for the hotel and they Venmo'd you. Like, do you owe them that money? Can they recognize that revenue? I was like, well, no, because you haven't gone to Las Vegas yet. They're like, oh, I get it now. You know, it's like, what the
I love that. I love the way you explain that.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, like, to me, I was like, because I can understand it in that way. So to tell like the student or the, you know, interns or new hires that, they're like, oh, Venmo, yeah, I get that, you know.
All right, wait, Marianne, I'm going to test you. I want you to explain LIFO and FIFO right now on the spot.
Well, I keep seeing these memes about they should have done first in, first out testing FIFO for Donald Trump and Joe Biden. But yeah, LIFO isn't followed anymore. I don't think it's a gap.
I can't govern for the LIFO me.
There you go. Oh my God, that's amazing. Both like the accounting, like just cringe that you just did, and also the Donald Trump. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was like a prime example of how you make the Dell like lively.
There you go.
Yeah.
Lifely, yeah.
Lively. Oh.
That's great. It's a cruel accounting. It's a cruel world out there.
I took 2 semesters of accounting and I was a C student. I didn't get it, so.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the quick-witted nature of NE and SE is like quick. It can make jokes right on the spot and stuff.
But
I wonder if that's why we're seeing
relevant experience, or like the relevancy of like ESFPs try to bring to the table. It's like, how can like we relate to this?
Mm-hmm.
Make it applicable. Sorry, Nari.
I was going to say, I wonder if that that quick-wittedness and wittiness and us liking to be funny is where people get the idea that we're gregarious. Because in a conversation, I actually want to know more about the other person than tell them about myself. So I'm always asking questions and being like, so tell me about yourself. And like, what does this mean? And blah, blah, blah. I want to get to know them.
Yeah, I do that too. People say I'm an interviewer, like I'm interviewing them.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that gives you more context, though, like for your FI when you ask those follow-up questions? Because for me, I'm like, wow, how would I be in that situation? What are they like? How was that experience? Like, how would, I don't know, like almost like trying to pick up behaviors or patterns, maybe in some ways. Because I feel like people on airplanes are like, oh, Mariana, let's tell you my whole life story. And I'm like, okay, do it. And they tell you, and you're like, wow, that's so interesting. I feel like I learned about almost human nature.
For me, it's just like another data point or data source. It's sort of, I'm always constantly gathering because I want to know what makes people tick. Like, that's one of the reasons why MBTI is so interesting for me.
Same here. So yep.
That's why, like, I'm always asking them because I'm like, oh, here's a new perspective, a new point of view. How do they see things? How do they look at the world? And then kind of compare it with mine. And then, And then, like, if there's any kind of resonance, I know that, hey, we can kind of go further as a friendship. Whereas if there's not necessarily, I can still respect them as a human being, but know that, hey, I don't think that there's enough in common for us to really build a strong kind of friendship or relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's kind of like synchronization in some ways, like where for me, it helps me learn and see human behavior, understand a different point of view, but while also understanding how I might relate to that person.
I also think it gets back to what John was saying before, like in our past when we were talking about memes and like how as ESFPs we vet people. Like we seem like open and friendly and like really, really gregarious, but we are vetting them against our FI.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that.
It's like, I like doing that with MBTI. Like I'll see someone who's like an INTJ or the opposite of my type, and I'm like, well, I want to talk to you and see how you react to the situation, and we compare our reactions and see how it differs. And it's
Let's
like
compare notes, yeah.
That is so cool. Any more stereotypes?
Well, it's a true one. They say we're perceptive, and that's definitely one thing. I notice things before people do. I'll be watching a movie, and I'll make a stupid thing like, "Hey, look, he's drinking a Corona beer." Like, what? Yeah, don't you see it? It's on the table right there. And I'm always noticing things, even about people. Like, I'm the first to notice if somebody has even the slightest limp. I'll say, "Hey, did you sprain your ankle?" Yeah, I tripped over the stairs or something. So I do notice things as they come up really quickly.
Yeah.
Even pick up on emotions. If I just the slight body language change, I can pick up on anything.
Yeah, my mother's 60 years old. She's an ESFP. No
Mhm.
matter where you are in the room, like she's the first person to probably notice something. And like she notices things faster than like young people do. Like it's kind of like we'll be in the car and she'll notice a certain sound that the car is making. She'll go like, "Do you guys hear that?" And we'll go like,
That's
"Oh,
me.
wow."
That's me. Totally.
Yeah, and like even like with the refrigerator making a certain noise, she'll be the first to know. Or like how your shirt looks a little tilted that day and like it's buttoned up weird. She'll be like, "It's weird." The sensory weird. But yeah, it's like sensory acuity. Yeah.
Mhm.
I definitely do that. And then I pair it with my FI. It really helps me a lot at work because I can kind of know when somebody's having an off day or when they're like trying to put on that like brave professional face, but I know something's going on behind the scenes. So I can kind of dig into it and be like, like, how do you really feel sort of thing. But obviously not just asking that, but being able to understand that there's more going on than like the surface emotions that people are showing me.
Well, I actually that makes me think of a question, Nari. Do you feel, or do y'all, to the audience, feel like you have just more innate boundaries thrown up? Like just like you're not gonna let that feeling or emotion merge with your own, versus like an high FE user, like almost like a boundary thing. Because like I can ish like take on the emotions of a room, but I also feel like I'm grounded enough in my own feelings, or like Mullen FI, where I'm like I can sit maybe with somebody who's like in an uncomfortable spot, or like I don't feel like I have to take on their emotions. What I'm saying, just like the blending of the boundaries of that, like you being an HR, if like you would like have a
definitely. I can kind of validate and empathize with their feelings, but I don't take them on. So maybe rather than empathize, I sympathize with their feelings. But I don't take them on and I don't internalize. I know where they're coming from, but they don't affect like the decisions or the information that I need to kind of relay to them, the person at the time.
You hurt for somebody, but also not let it take over how you like go about your day. Because I feel like
no, it affects my day. It becomes a bad day.
If someone tells me something, I'm like, man, that's so messed up. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, and hurt for them, but at the same time, not let it too much affect the trajectory of my life.
It depends on my involvement in their mood. So if it's because of something that I have to tell them that makes them upset or then it definitely impacts my mood. If it's something that's outside of anything that relates to me, it's something that's going on over here, then definitely there's definitely a separation of it. Doesn't necessarily impact my mood, but I can kind of sympathize with their situation and kind of understand that, hey, if you need to take a mental health day, that's perfectly valid and okay, and kind of making them feel comfortable or being able to kind of mentally handle this situation and kind of take the time out that they need to, instead of like adding on and kind of just kind of adding on and increasing their stress level. And the same thing, like if it's something good, it like bounces up something good that happens, then it definitely lifts my mood. So I am affected, but it depends on if it's positive or negative and if I'm involved or if I'm not.
I've just heard of like high FE. The reason I asked that is I've heard of high FE users almost like it's like a HSP, like highly sensitive person, in the sense they kind of take on, I guess it would be, empathic. I was just curious, like just the boundaries of like the FE versus FI, like if y'all had like any, like where you feel like you take on an energy. To me, I'm like, not really.
Even the energy that I take on is very superficial, I think, compared to FE.
Okay, so I would personally also relate to that.
Yeah, okay, it's interesting. I think like FI, it doesn't want to be like influenced by other people's feelings. So with FE, what I do is I don't have boundaries. So what happens is I take on your emotion because I want, like, I live in this state where I let things influence my feelings. And so like it's almost like it affects me before I have the chance to even block it off. So it's like infectious feelings.
That's like the SE of like the decision maker, like TE, FE, like TI, where you're like the fact that you're so in the moment feeling someone else's emotions. It's almost like it's the SE-ish in some ways. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah, all extroverted functions are in the moment, and all introverted functions are like stored and post-processed.
Okay. No, that's
interesting. Like I'll like completely absorb someone's emotions if I know exactly like if, for example, if someone's super damn pissed or something at the slow internet, I know how slow internet is, and I've been angry at that shit before, so I'll cuss along right with them. Or if they're sad about something that happened, like just like one time I found someone who got who actually felt dejected because people were mistreating them about their type, and I went so freaking hard. Like I popped off in the chat. I was like, oh my god, I posted paragraphs, and I totally felt what they were feeling because I'm like, oh my god, like it just connected to me as well. It felt like we were going through the same thing. Yeah. It's like that's when that happens for me.
Yeah, but that's very FI because you're relating it back to like when you were frustrated about internet, and so you can relate to them, and so you can empathize for them because you're relating it to an inner emotional experience. And
it makes it so much stronger. Yeah, like my emotional response is so much stronger when that happens.
Yeah. That's different from FE.
I feel like the FE strength in that way, in a lot of ways, where you're like you don't have to have a past experience. You can like relate or tether it to.
Yeah.
You can just be in the moment, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Whenever I take those cognitive functions tests, I always do score high on FE. And that's what always kind of confused me. I definitely don't fit ESTP. I don't want to say something bad about them, but anyway.
Con artist.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have my baseball hat on backwards, I remember I was watching that video as the ESTPs and the ESFPs. They seem like too cool for this, that guy Jed over there. He's like smoking his cigarettes and
they are super fucking cool. I'm like, can I sit at your table, please? Like
I think that SE and FI can really mimic FE or appear like FE on the outside, but I don't think that we have that same sort of no boundary connection. We have boundaries up for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Any other stereotypes you guys want to talk about?
Again, another one that's spoken of, and I would agree with it. And this happens all the time when I'm in meetings. There'll be something that the boss says or something which is so unreasonable. It's so everybody, you can see it on their face. They're disagreeing with it, but nobody wants to say anything. I'm always the one who says, hey, that doesn't sound right. I'm always the bold one, And they do say that about it, that, we'll speak up. I don't know
sometimes
if you guys...
to the detriment of ourselves, but we do speak up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I got in trouble for that a lot. Like I was in the middle of like some presentation, like this pyramid scheme, and I was the one who went, "Wait, this sounds like a scam. It sounds like a pyramid scheme."
That's what I would say. Yeah, I would say that. I would definitely.
And I get like, "Wow, that you shouldn't say that." I'm like, "Well, they're trying to scam people out of money, man."
Yep.
Well, for example, like my interaction with Shane previously, where I was like, "Oh, well, it sounds like you don't necessarily regret the action itself, just the consequences." That's like me speaking in the moment without thinking about, okay, how is this going to come across? What are the possible consequences of this? Like, how is it going to play out in the future? That's my inferior, and I just not showing up to the party, and me being like SE's FI saying, "Hey, this is what's going on," just to let you know, I've got it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's how it shows up. Let's see. I would also say ESFPs. Another stereotype is ESFPs can't have deep conversations, and it kind of relates back to that whole stereotype that ESFPs aren't intelligent. But people, assume that all we want to talk about is gossip and like the Kardashians and like what we see on Entertainment Tonight. I don't even watch those shows or like what was on TV last night. Like I don't watch the most popular TV shows. I would rather, I think maybe it was Steph or Shane, Shane or Pete. One of you guys were saying that you don't watch a lot of TV. You'd rather be out living life. And same. I would rather be out living life. Like I'll sit down and I'll binge if there's like an interesting show people are talking about, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to dedicate this time to just like binge it and watch it all the way through. Yeah. But I'm not watching like TV every single hour of the day.
Cool. Any other stereotypes, y'all?
I think we covered a lot of it.
Yeah, they also say that we like earn the lowest salaries among all the types. I'm saying, where do they get that from? I don't know.
I'm making $1 million right now.
Yeah.
Dude, you know Shane, like he looks like he makes so much. Like he's the most. When I look at him, I'm like, that's what success looks like. He's not here right now.
Looking at his closet and all of his jewelry and all of his shoes. Yep.
Like he's
actually even his apartment.
Yeah, he just has all like the fancy, like it looks like he has fancy stuff. He's very successful. Like, wow, I aspire to sort of be like that, you know.
Yep.
The last stereotype I'll say, Joyce, I don't know if you want to wrap up this, is, and we talked about this like in our like just our one-on-one recording, was because like it's like the shallow stereotype. I think it really because, and I think we also vet by being very playful. Like, can you be a playmate? Can you be silly? There is, when that is like kind of like your vetting process, obviously shallowness kind of can be like a stereotype with that. But I just feel like there's a lot of depth right beneath the surface. Like, if you'll just like hang with me for a couple more days, I will overshare my entire life with you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
But for someone, if someone thinks that's shallow, you know, to each his own, that's fine. It's one of those things. It's almost like a filtering out process where something that I think is shallow, but it's not shallow. It's all relative. Just like to, I don't know, to have some grace for other types.
Well, you know, you ever hear the saying, they say history books are written by the winners, you know, like, or because they won the wars and all that. I feel like MBTI is written by the ones who created it, the intuitives. They're the ones that they gravitate toward it. If you look, they're always the INTJs, INFJs, and they're the ones writing it. But imagine if we wrote it, right? So then I'd describe an INTP as boring and a wallflower. You know, these are the stereotypes I would say. It was from my perspective, you know.
It's like how America's so great in the history books. You know what I mean? Like we're You're like, oh, that. When someone pointed that out to me, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, after I've already been through high school, I was like, wait, we're not the best. And you're like, wait, like, of course someone wrote that the way they wanted to. There's always
That is so true. And that's what it looks like from the surface, and what it looks like from reading these articles, like the first page of Google kind of stuff, is not what it's really like. And that's what's so interesting.
Perception is reality in so many ways.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of the problems that we're facing as the country right now, is everybody's got different perceptions of how the world should be based on varying information sources. And because they don't align, we have such a division in our beliefs and in our thinking and what's going on right now.
Yeah,
I think that really triggers a dominant SE type, because it's not updating your thoughts or perceptions with reality, with what's actually going on. It's like you're not updating. It's like you're behind like 10 updates on the iPhone, where you're like, wait a second, but this is how like I used to do it. And it's like, well, you've got to kind of like, I don't know, I don't know, synchronize it or whatever. Where it's, to me, that's what's so frustrating as an SE user, where I feel like we can kind of call a spade, and it might involve politics, which is very controversial, and like it is very subjective. But at the same time, you're like, I'm just like trying to fight for human rights here. To me, that just seems like a right thing to do. And I know right and wrong is very subjective, but in that sense, I'm like, what? Like, are you not considering these other factors? Because like, I don't know. I mean, not obviously, like I said earlier, not to bring politics into play, but I feel like that really bothers my SE. I'm just like, you're not updating.
You know what it reminds me of? It would be like, I don't know, you know, what is the right way to make a pizza, right? Well, some like it thin crust, some like it thin crust, you know, thick and thin or whatever. Some like it with pineapple, some like it with pepperoni. But why is one right and one is wrong? And that's what we've become in this country. Yeah, it's like why it's just a way of doing something differently. Yet we judge it.
I feel like it's a case by case basis. Like, why is there has to be this one right way to do it? Whenever you can just if you want to make a pizza right now, you can make it the way you want to make it. Like it's just there. But then if you have to be like, there's just one way to do it. It's
not hold space for someone else's way of doing it. Even if you wouldn't do it that way. And I would never put pineapple on my pizza, but I would try to hold space for someone who, I'm like, that's pretty. And it's like, no, but
Any last thoughts before we close the panel?
Oh, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, what did you think about it, Joyce? Did you think did you have any kind of plans for how this would turn out?
Oh, no, I didn't.
We're good conversationalists, right? Isn't that what we're known for? We can keep it going, you know?
She doesn't have to plan for us. We're like, we got it, girl.
Right.
Like,
This is so much fun. Like, I'm just relieved because that I'm finally getting to speak out, like, about these stereotypes and listening to other people have commentaries. Like, so it's like so cool because like I don't know how many times I've been browsing like the subreddits and I'll see some garbage written about ESFPs and I'm like, come on. And like I saw this one pathetic thread like someone like of if you can't dance while you're not ESFP. I'm like, how is that related to the type? That's just purely practice related. Like an INTJ could be a better dancer than an ESFP with different levels of practice. So
Joyce, thanks for providing a voice and an outlet, like for us to. I really appreciate it. I mean, and you're also a really good panelist and host. And
absolutely,
thank you so much. It feels like I'm sure in a lot of ways, intuitive types have never felt understood in real life. I think on the internet, which like it's obviously we're not traumatized by this at all, but it's really nice that you give us a platform to be able to combat stereotypes. And also like to feel validated by talking to one another. I'm like, oh my God, like that was your experience too. Like, okay, I'm not alone. Like that sucks, doesn't it? Like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like how can we like more so like be quote unquote allies or like support S types or maybe like, break down stereotypes. So thank you for like having this platform to give us that. Yeah. It's awesome.
And Marianne, you were the first one, Marianne. I remember I'm always looking for new stuff on YouTube, and I scrolled down and I saw your interview and I said, finally, this is something that's actually accurate rather than stereotypical. I really mean that. It was a great interview.
Oh, thank you. I saw there was like some INFJ that commented on the very bottom. I was like, like kind of checked out towards like, I was like, okay, well, whatever. Maybe it's boring. That's fine. I'm not offended by that, but I was like, wait, did you actually watch? Because like me and Joyce, we had a lot of back and forth commentary. And I think when it got emotional for me was probably at least 45 minutes into it where it was one of those things where like, and when I rewatched it, when Joyce aired it, I got really choked up rewatching it in a way like where I was just like, in a way like where I wanted to hold space for it. I was like, okay, like, wow, I'm so glad that Joyce called this and that Joyce is so great. And it's that FE where you're like, you were unfiltered, Joyce, and the way you didn't try to combat, you just let it come out. And anyway, that comment on that video, I was like, wait, like maybe I was boring the first like 45 minutes. Like, did you watch like the last part of it? Because it did really kind of get beneath like the surface.
But it's actually a really good representation of what happens with us like on the regular on the internet. They don't look past that. They go, oh, I'm checked out, bye, and they miss all the other stuff. So, and then they go off and think that that's all we are, and it's like, yeah, you totally just missed out on more than half of the whole thing.
And maybe the person did watch the whole video and they still thought it was boring, which is like totally like they can totally have that opinion. It's not going to make me lose sleep. Yeah. But it was more like I just want to let that person know. I'm like, hey, I swear we got to some depth eventually. It took a while. And the majority of comments, overwhelming majority, were so sweet and so positive. So Pete, I'm so glad that you watched that. You like felt represented because that was one of the things that was important to me and that I commented on. I think on that video, responded to a comment. I was like, I hope that like you feel like I represented ESFPs well. Whoever had commented on it, and like, oh, you totally did. And
yeah, because there was one video of another channel, whatever, and the guy was just there. Hey, I'm drinking beers, and I'm thinking, oh, great, you're just making our cause worse, It's terrible, just drinking beers.
put it in a water bottle, like try to make it clear, you know, like just do vodka instead. Like,
yeah. So thank you everyone for
Thank you.
representing
Yeah.
ESFPs in a very like true to the type way that you're giving like real representation to this type. So then, you know, there are going to be future ESFPs watching this and they're like, wow, you know, I really feel seen from this video. I feel like it's representative of the type. And thank you for like just contributing to the content where, you know, ESFPs can feel seen and understood, and that their process is accurately demonstrated through someone else. It's kind of like, it makes the theory feel more real when you can other people, like you can relate to them, that it's not a stereotype.
Just echoing what Mariana said, thanks for creating this platform and creating like a space where ESPs can get together and kind of voice these opinions. Because sometimes, like when I tell people I'm an ESFP and they're new to MBTI, they're like, oh, what does that mean? And I have to give them like the 16 personalities, quick.
Like, don't Google stereotypes, okay?
Oh, and
quick definition, and they're like, "Are you okay with this?" I'm like, "No, this isn't actually accurate. There's some point of truth, but."
Have you guys watched that show Drunk History by any chance?
Yes, I have.
It's on cable. Joyce, I have a suggestion for the next one. The requirement is we have a couple of drinks in us before the video. I think it'll be a little bit more fun, even.
Ooh.
Oh, I already had a couple of drinks in. If all y'all do too, you know, like, all right.
That would be really interesting.
Yeah, then you'll see a different side to us. Maybe the stereotypes will come out then.
Drunk typing, I love
Drunk
it.
typing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, Joyce. Maybe after. Well, maybe actually we should rope John and Shane in on that one too.
I
just push the work one back.
Will feel extra vulnerable, especially I think the ISTJs that I know. Like, oh my god! I'm like, no, I'm gonna put a freaking like IV up to your arm with whiskey, and then Joyce will record with you. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be so much fun.
Thank you, Joyce.
Honestly, like like when I first got into MBTI, I was like, I felt like I felt actually. Along my journey, I doubted my type so damn much because of all the stereotypes, and I felt actually really dejected when I just saw that, like, oh, people don't think of my type anymore as this shallow stuff, and that's why I'm just so happy that we're doing this, because maybe there'll be people like me watching this later on, and they won't have to go through the same thing, you know. It's great that you're doing this.
And for future generations that will all have the internet that can look back, it's pretty cool.
Oh my god, yeah, that's also true. Oh my god, this is just I just can't. It's just so cool.
Yeah, like you guys are leaving a ripple effect of positivity in the type space in terms of like ESFP content, and just your voices will mean so much to the people who hear it, and it resonates. You'll change how they view typology. So they'll go like, oh, typology was okay before, but now that I heard actual ESFPs talking, I feel like I can actually relate to them on a human level, and it makes it so much more real, and I'm so much more into this. So you might be the reason for someone's love of typology in the future, and you will. Yeah.
And you gave us the space to do it.
Right.
So it makes it cooler, like when you think about teaming up.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got to meet all of you.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Joy.
You guys make my heart like a glow stick, and it just, you know. Thank you.
Like, I'm just like overflowing with happiness right now. This is amazing.
Yeah. So I appreciate every moment with y'all. And thank you, audience members, for watching. We'll see you all in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.